I wanted to do an update today. This is a day after I started making this course about BitTorrent, because BitTorrent actually, in the grand scheme of things, would make more sense from a decentralized perspective because it comes from a peer-to-peer roots kind of system. So making it decentralized seemed like a smart option. Now, unfortunately, the maker of BitTorrent ran out of money, or probably ran out of just passion for it, because it was after a certain amount of time of trying different ways to get BitTorrent to be kind of mainstream. But he still walked away with 126 million, which is not bad really if you think about it. Anyway, the blockchain company Tron bought BitTorrent, which is super interesting because Tron is well known as this super fast blockchain. Very high transmission TX records, so it can do a lot of transactions per second. I'm not sure if it can do as many as Visa, or if it can do more than Visa. I mean, there's big players like XRP as well who have a fast blockchain, and you kind of need lots of transactions per second for scale. So something like BitTorrent, you definitely need to match it with a blockchain that can cope with that. So I always thought it was interesting that Tron bought out BitTorrent. They made a token for it called BTT, tokenizing the world's largest decentralized file sharing protocol. This is where it gets a little bit hype though, because you get all these stats about 100 million users, and it's true that they have 100 million users, but they are people who've used blockchain technology, not necessarily users of the Tron integrated BitTorrent. So they're hedging their bets on the fact that people who use it at the moment, which by the way most people use it to download probably free movies, they're not paying for any of that. So to try and add a token on top of this, you need to come up with an interesting proposition. So their proposition is, wouldn't it be great if you could like integrate it into the BitTorrent software, and you had like a slow, medium, and fast lane, and you basically got paid to seed content. Now that gets really interesting, because then it requires you to have a node that's online 24/7, and then you get tokens based on your peering, basically sharing that out, or the different fast lanes. So for instance, say you've got like a gigabit connection and you've got a lot of uptime, maybe you're going to go down the completely legal route. I'm not quite sure how the hosting side is going to work yet. I'm not sure if it's encrypted and you just become a node in a network, or you actually just host a certain kind of file format. I'm sure they're going to have to do some kind of like checking of the content that's on the service. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but a lot of this is actually kind of hype-ish because it's going on the BitTorrent story from before rather than where we're at now. But they're going to be utilizing a TRC10 token, which they have, as far as I can work out, they have two different types of token, the 10 and the 20. Similar in approach to the Ethereum token, the ERC20. I think it's actually fully compatible to ERC20. So the 10... I did read it. The 10 was easier to integrate from a developer's point of view, so that might be good for people wanting to monetize their video hosting communities. So it kind of has a leg up on ipfs if they can get the whole BitTorrent. I mean, the BitTorrent technology works really well, so it's just like integrating the two together, right? And if you look at CoinCap Market, they're ranked 12 on Tron's like rank 12. You won't bet against them being high up there in the rankings. And even BitTorrent BTT is at rank 64, which is higher than Steam, which is another blockchain that I use. Another thing that I should mention, the reason why it's thrown everything today, is one of the projects that Tron are trying to do with BitTorrent is this thing called Project Atlas. So they're trying to come up with a way to share and exchange files. And even though the BitTorrent hype again here with 100 million users and makes up 33% of internet traffic, most of that is people downloading like movies probably illegally. But I do like what they're trying to do with it. And if it takes off and more people use this unconsciously, like it's bolted into a browser as a plugin, for instance, and you can upload video into that cloud, and then almost like miners get paid in like a Bitcoin royalty for checking transactions on the blockchain, on Bitcoin blockchain, there'll be a similar thing with Tron with these TRC10 tokens. And then everything today kind of got turned on its head a little bit, because it's the last day of the year 2019, And the news is that DLive, which is a live streaming platform which originated on Steam, believe it or not, on the Steam blockchain. I'm actually starting to think that Steam is kind of a philanthropic, what do you call it, a philanthropic incubator, because DLive, as an experiment, used Steam for the first year before they went off and used this other blockchain called Lino, and now they've just been acquired literally today. So this is kind of interesting because it's a marriage made in heaven, really, because if you can integrate video storage, maybe they've looked at it like, we can't store all this content, or it's costing us money to store this content. It's the biggest issue with centralized and decentralized networks, is you need a lot of nodes, and you need a lot of uptime, and you need a lot of space. So I think it's really, really smart that you bolt in something into a uTorrent client. You have the BitTorrent client running in your tray bar when you're online, and basically you end up with this like global peer-to-peer network with all the videos being shared on it. I'm not sure how the streaming part is going to work. I presume that will be centralized, or at least a lot of centralized nodes, because with streaming servers you need them to be low latency, and I don't know of a chunked way of BitTorrent streaming. Maybe somebody came up with something for BitTorrent for streaming as well. If they can do that and they can chunk it, like if they can, like, everybody is part of the streaming network, that would be amazing. And then you would get paid out in a token for providing that peerage, providing those data packets to other people. So they've gone from Steam to Lino to Tron now. And I'm kind of interested to see how much they paid for this. I'm going to have to dig a little bit more details out about it. But you wouldn't bet against Justin Sun right now going into 2020. And so if you're looking to move from a streaming platform like Twitch or YouTube or Mixer, and you're looking to get into cryptocurrency or anything to do with crypto, it's probably a good idea to have a look at DLive. And even though it looks a little bit like a cheap Twitch, the fact that they've done this acquisition, it fits together perfectly for me. I don't know how the integration is going to work quite yet, but if you were to back somebody in 2020, even at the price of what BTT is right now, it's incredibly cheap, and Tron is incredibly cheap. Picking up a small bag of each of that to do decentralized hosting in 2020, I think is a worthwhile bet. So yeah, that's completely thrown everything today, because originally I just wanted to talk about the fact that Tron bought the BitTorrent code for 126 million. Then they made a token around it, which makes total sense, that I can earn a token for having files maybe in an encrypted container on my local machine that are then served out to other people requesting it. But also from a content creator's perspective, the ability to be like, I need a terabyte of space and I need it to be up all the time. And then you buy this token, and then that token slowly diminishes as it gives bits of the token out to people doing your peering for you when you're not online 24/7. So kind of interesting. I think if somebody, I would love to see Tron also go and, not necessarily, I don't know if they'll be able to acquire ipfs.io because it's an open source project, but if they can support ipfs as well and join it all together, we could have the decentralized peerage, peer-to-peer networks that we're looking for, and that would speed up our departure from centralized platforms like YouTube.